in return for a $114 billion EU-IMF rescue package, it will have to implement austerity measures, the key issue of this election. These include tax hikes and freezes on pensions and wages, as well as a big reduction in welfare benefits. Unemployment is at its highest in 30 years at 12.6%. Let's speak now with Al Jazeera Sonia Gallegos live from the capital, Lisbon. And Sonia, if you would talk about how the day is going, how big a turnout is expected?
Well, Tony, they have anticipated actually more people turning out to vote in some polling stations here in Lisbon from what we've seen here. And it's no surprise, really, given the severity of the situation here in Portugal. This has been, many people saying this is probably the most important elections to have taken place here in the country in recent times. Even the president, Cavaco Silva, urging people to go out and vote. Now, even just taking a look at the front page of one of the leading papers here, they're wondering whether there is going to be a Portuguese version of the Greek tragedy. That's just goes to show basically what the feeling is here amongst the Portuguese here. Now, turning to those two front runners in the race, let's take a look first at the leader of the centre-right opposition party, PSD. That's Pedro Coelho. He has been very, very critical of the incumbent Prime Minister, saying that he's been the reason why Portugal has been brought to the brink of bankruptcy, and the Socialist Prime Minister himself has actually been blaming the opposition for not helping him pass through a series of austerity measures in order to avoid an IMF bailout. So the blame game being passed around here. Now, joining us here now is Pedro Duarte from O Diário Econômico. Pedro, basically, what are we seeing between these two men? Let's have a look first at the Socialist Prime Minister. How is he sort of pushing himself? Why is he sort of pushing himself even now when there is so much at risk here?
Well, actually, he himself is gambling his political career, but he is above all getting a huge victory by making sure that the opposition was the one that flunked his austerity plan. He could make himself pass up as the victim, and therefore he's blaming Passos Coelho for all the problems. So he is now presenting himself by making almost a complete U-turn from the last cuts as the great champion of the poor and of those who have less. He's now showing himself again as if he was a socialist. That is giving up him a lot of bonus. Well,
obviously his critic, Pedro Passos Coelho, been fiercely critical of Socrates. Now, but the thing is that Coelho comes from a very different standpoint. He is not someone who has been involved in government as much as Socrates. How is that playing with the public here?
It's not playing very good at all. People see him as basically a businessman. They don't know him. They think he's just an upstarter, and therefore they're really not being convinced by him at all. The Social Democrats haven't risen much in the polls because of it.
But still, but it's interesting that they are still just ahead of the Socialists so far from what we can tell in the polls. But, more or less, they're not really going ahead by that much. Why is that?
Well, it's mostly because people actually prefer those who they know than those who they don't know, which happens with the fact that the Prime Minister is better well known and cultivates better its image, and also because one of our third largest party, the Trotskyite left bloc, which were people who identify themselves with the left, which usually vote for this party almost as a protest, now see the Socialist Prime Minister as an alternative to prevent what they call the right wings, the Social Democrats, from winning to power, and they're moving in droves to vote for the Socialists.
Okay, a complicated situation there. But what is for sure, Tony, is that whoever comes out as the winner in these elections, they're going to face a very, very tough test of their leadership powers.
Boy, it sounds like it. All right, Sonia, appreciate it. Thank you.